Hi everyone, welcome to our PT Plus online lessons. Now, the main topic for today's lesson is Read Aloud, where we will be breaking down the score criteria for content and understanding what makes a high content score. Okay, so just a quick recap first. For Read Aloud, you will have 30 to 40 seconds of preparation time to prepare yourself for this text. Then you'll have 30 to 40 seconds to record yourself reading this passage out loud into the microphone. And remember that you can only record it once. Right. Now, with Read Aloud, you are scored on 3 criteria: content, pronunciation, and fluency. And so in today's lesson, we will be looking and analyzing the content criteria. Now, as you can see, there are 2 requirements stated here. The first one is that there is a maximum score that depends on the length of the item prompt. What this means is basically it depends on how long the passage you get is. Usually it's 2 marks, and if it's a bit of a longer passage, it might be 3 marks. So content is usually worth 2 to 3 marks. Now, each replacement, omission, or insertion of a word counts as 1 error. So when you replace a word, so for example, wreath over here, I'm saying wealth, I'm replacing it with another word, that's a replacement. An omission is basically when you omit or you drop a word. For example, instead of saying made from leaves, I said made leaves. So I dropped the word from, and that's an omission. Insertion is when you add a word that isn't there in the passage. Okay, so for example, if I said made from the leaves, right? I added in a the that actually isn't there. That's an insertion. And each of these count as 1 error. Now, 1 error doesn't mean 1 whole mark. Okay, it is in proportion to the piece of text. So if it is a long passage and you're making a few errors, you can still receive 1 to 2 marks in content still. Okay, so this looks like quite a simple criteria. And actually, many students think that Read Aloud is one of the simplest question types in speaking. But that's actually not the case. In fact, Read Aloud is one of the toughest question types in speaking to actually improve in. And it's really because it's really related to the foundations of your speaking. All right. Now, in order to understand that, let's first have a look at how the machine scores your content. All right. Now, firstly, the machine is actually built on a word level. So what the model will do, the scoring model, it will actually look at your speaking from the word level first, and then it will evaluate it from the sentence level and so forth. Okay. So your word level is your foundations first. Now, let's say you're saying this text over here, okay? Now, for each word, let's say they're listening to the word laurel, the machine will generate a list of possibilities that it thinks you might have said, okay? So it thinks here that you could have said laurel, you could have said low, lol, lol, lonro, hello, loro. So all of these are the possibilities that it thinks that you might have said. And then for each of these possibilities, what it does is also calculate a probability or how close to that possibility it is that your speaking sounds like. So in this case, the machine thinks that, oh, this student, when they're saying this word, it sounds the most like low. Okay. Now, in this case, as you can see, it seems like it's very related to your pronunciation, right? And it is, okay? Now, in this case, though, the student will still get the content mark for laurel. And the reason for this is because even though, yes, the machine thinks that what you said sounds the most like low, but laurel is still in one of your possibilities. And so the machine might be able to understand that as, okay, I can guess that maybe it's laurel that you're trying to say, okay? So I'll give you the content mark for it. But your pronunciation, you actually sound more like low. So your pronunciation will lose marks, but you will get the content score for laurel. Okay, so as you can see, content is a little bit related to the way that you're saying the words and how easily the machine can recognize your speaking. right? So here are a few tips for improving your content, right? Number one is to ensure that you keep a steady pace to maintain your accuracy. Okay, now a lot of times students are rushing through the text, or they could be a bit nervous and they're making many careless mistakes. Some students, they look at a word and they just see it as a different word altogether. Like, this is wreath and I just saw it as wealth, and so I said wealth. Okay, so these careless mistakes, you definitely want to be minimizing them. Now, some students may also, when they rush through the text, they may just miss out on seeing certain words. For example, one on head in ancient times, right? So what I did was I missed out on the. One on head in ancient times. I missed out on saying the word the, okay? So if you're rushing through the text, it's very easy for you to miss out on things or to see things wrongly. So what you want to do instead is to keep a steady, consistent pace. No need to rush and speed up and talk really fast. Keep your pace to maintain that accuracy. Okay. Now, number two, content is quite related and affected by your speaking or pronunciation habits. So, for example, some students have a speaking habit of simply adding thes and ers into a lot of things. So, for example, this bit over here, made from leaves and branches. Okay. Many students may actually have the habit of going made from the leaves and the branches, adding a the or an into the front of these nouns. Okay. So obviously this will affect your content because you are adding and inserting words in there that aren't actually there in the passage. Okay, so your speaking habits do affect your content. Now, the other thing is also your pronunciation habits or perhaps issues or mistakes. Okay, so for example, some students with the word made, they tend to add an extra vowel sound into the end. So instead of saying made, they're saying made. Okay, now in this case then you are adding an extra sound to this word made to become made, and therefore you're actually inserting essentially another word into this text. Okay, and that obviously will also affect your content because you're not reading it exactly as it should be. Okay, so definitely again, improving your pronunciation will definitely allow you to be more easily recognized by the machine and thus improve your content score. Okay, so that's it for this lesson, and I hope to see you again next time on PT Plus.